Hey, it's Mike with Riding in the Ozarks, and today we got more Harley Davidson news. The X500, a variant of the X350 RA used for the Riding Academy here in the U.S., is expected to come to the U.S. based on new documentation discovered by Dennis Chung, who writes for Motorcycle.com. I expect a lot of loyalists and purists are going to be very upset with the idea of a Chinese manufactured Harley Davidson being sold in the U.S. If you're not familiar with the X500, it's a liquid-cooled, parallel twin-cylinder 500cc motorcycle being made by a company called Zhang. I probably butchered that, but that's as close as I can get. They claim it's going to have 49 miles per gallon, and the weight is somewhere around 456 pounds. It'll put out 47 horsepower at a peak of 8,500 RPM, and 33 foot-pounds of torque at 5,000 RPM. Main drive is chain. You'll have lean angles in the 47 and 49 degree angles. It has a 50 millimeter inverted rebound adjustable front suspension and a rebound dampening adjustable preload adjustable shock absorber in the rear, dual 4-piston fixed calipers in the front, a single piston floating caliper in the rear, cast aluminum wheels, running 17s on the front and rear with a seat height of 32.3 inches. So it's a little taller than we're normally used to, with a ground clearance of 6 inches. Fuel capacity is 3.4 gallons and all LED lighting. Up until this time, all Harley Davidson sold in the US were manufactured in the US. The bikes made overseas were sold in other foreign markets. So bikes sold in Australia, for example, might be assembled from Thailand. From what I understand, a lot of the parts are still developed in the US, sent to Thailand to be assembled, but that's kind of here nor there. A lot of people want to say that Harleys are already made from Chinese parts and stuff. And the fact is, in 2023, most manufacturers are getting parts from overseas. The US simply has not been creating products like they used to 20, 30, 40 years ago. So manufacturers really don't have that much of an option if they're going to make a product. Now, you might think this is a desperate move by Harley Davidson. Why would they want to sell Chinese-made 500cc motorcycles in the US when motorcycles like the Street 500 didn't do well? I talked about this a little bit in a video recently. Harley Davidson makes the X350 and the X500. And the 350 is a riding academy bike. So you can imagine, if you're a new rider and you go to the Harley Davidson dealership and you take a course and you get done and you say, how much does one of these cost? And they say, oh, we don't sell them in the US. Nobody will buy them here. Well, that person who's looking to start out, they might go over to Honda and buy a CB350, or over to a Royal Enfield dealer and buy a 452, whatever Himalayan that's coming out. There is a market for small displacement bikes. Triumph's coming out with the Speed 400, and they've announced it's coming to the US. Simply, the fact is, Harley Davidson has to have some option to compete with those. The Riding Academy is a great opportunity for people to get their motorcycle license and to be introduced to the Harley Davidson family. Am I thrilled that the bikes are made in China? No. Maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe these particular models in the US will be assembled in the US. I don't know yet. I mean, that's to be seen. We'll find out in a few months, I'm sure, when the 2024 models are released. But I can tell you partially what's driving this, and that's sales. Harley Davidson's third quarter report's going to be out in a few weeks, but I can already tell you, based on articles I've read that are covering the motorcycle industry and third quarter sales numbers, the sales are down. Now that doesn't mean profits are down, it just means sales are down. So they can still be making just as much money by controlling costs or increasing margins, or through parts and accessories, they could be making up for it. They could sell a whole ton of t-shirts. That's hard to say. We'll know when the financials come out. But what I can tell you is I've seen 2 different news articles that say Harley sales are down anywhere from 5 to 7% globally through the third quarter. And one of those articles indicates that it's like a 5% drop in the US. Now, what's causing the drop in sales? Is it people are losing interest in Harley Davidson? Well, According to the articles I read, it's got to do with high interest rates. And I'm going to kind of do some research on that, and maybe we'll talk about that more in another video. I don't know if it is. I do know building costs and interest rates have dramatically affected the housing market. And I think the automobile market is becoming, well, more reasonable than what it was during the pandemic. We're getting, post-pandemic, we're getting back to more reasonable pricing. Inventory is getting back to a more normal level, so dealerships can't be charging $5,000 and $10,000 over MSRP on an entry-level truck like the Ford Maverick. That was just ridiculous. It's supposed to be affordable, and then dealers are sticking $10,000 over MSRP on it. And Harley has its own problems with dealers putting price tags over MSRP. And I still think that's something they have to address. And I understand that, people will say they can't. The dealers are independently owned. They own the bike. They can sell it for whatever they want. Well, that may be true, but by the same token, Harley-Davidson discouraged people from selling motorcycles under MSRP. If they can discourage them from selling them under MSRP, I'm sure there's a way they can motivate and discourage selling them for more than MSRP. So, whether that's they hold back shipments or they do something else to penalize the dealership, I don't know. I also understand why dealers are possibly selling bikes for over MSRP just to break even. My understanding is Harley's increased some costs for some of the dealers, and they've cut the margins on some of the bikes. So dealers are having a harder time making the profit they're used to making with less margins and lower sales. Hopefully some of those are making it up in the used bike market. Harley-Davidson dealers jumped into the used motorcycle market heavy a few years ago. Used motorcycles are the largest competitor to new motorcycle sales. So if someone comes into the Harley dealer looking for a new Harley and they can't afford it, they're more likely to walk out with a used Harley or go buy one from an individual than they are to just go buy a new motorcycle from a different brand. Of course, there are brands like Indian and Triumph and Honda that do represent new motorcycle competition. For all the purists out there, I would say, remember, you want Harley-Davidson to stay around, and you don't want to pay through the nose for it. So let's not discourage them from making money on other products any way they can, rather than just continuing to have a higher Harley-Davidson tax for your normal consumers here in the US. I hope the X350 and the X500 find a market and that they do okay, because I want Harley-Davidson to survive. I want the bikes that are made here in the US to continue to be made here in the US. All right, guys, I got to get to work. Just wanted to share this news with you. Y'all stay safe, keep on riding, and we'll see you in the next one.